So yes, happy Mother's Day. We do want to all mothers. We want to honor them for all they've done for us and continue to do for us. We want to honor them because they free us to live in the embrace of their love and nurture. We honor you as mothers and much more. We honor you as wives and sisters and grandmothers and friends. And we pray that God would continue to help you be all that you were designed to be today and into the future. And as we mentioned earlier, Mother's Day, while yes, it's a wonderful celebration, for some of you, it's not that easy. For many reasons, this day of remembering Mother and being Mother may not be as pleasant, and we honor you in the difficult time as well. But I want to start by asking you to think about how you talk to your mother. I think there are a couple of ways we talk to our mother. Firstly, let's put two broad categories. Think about how you talk to your mother as a child to your mother, and then secondly, when you're an adult. So some of you may have to go back a few years to think about how you talked to your mother a long time ago, but maybe you can reflect on how your children talk to you to bring you more up to date. So if we think about relationship conversations between a child and the child's mother, most of it is about the child wanting to get something from the mother or the mother to do something for the child. Not much else. So you hear things like this, and you'll each have your own family variation on these themes. I'm asking you nicely, pretty please, I love you so much, you're the best mom in the world. What about, you love me so much, and a loving mother would never want to deprive her children. I'll go and clean my room right now if you do this for me. Or what about many variations on this theme? I will always remember to feed the dog every day and take it for walks after school if only you would be so generous to give me one. Everyone has one, and now obviously I'm one of the rejected and deprived kids in the group. Dad says it's okay, but he wants me to ask you. Or the silent sulking treatment around the home until you get what you want. Just a few ideas, eh? And linked to that, we haven't got time to go into all the actions and the tone of voice we may use, the touch we may use that to manipulate the situations, our funny movements we may put on. But if we were talking to, a good friend's mother, for example, we wouldn't talk in that way, would we? It would be kind of more distant, more formal, and maybe not so real or intimate. And if I asked you, say I was, which I have been for a number of years, a teacher in a classroom, and I said, what does your mother think on something? You would probably not need to say, let me go, and ask her because I'm not sure. Most of you know what your mother would think on most things, not because she's told you all of it, but because of what she has told you and by association from that. You know the answer, but often you act like you don't know the answer because you're aiming to get her to change her mind or to compromise about something. Normally this is in the area of relaxing rules or boundaries in the home. But what about when we're adults? How do things change? Well, sometimes nothing. But normally you're asking more for friendship, for support, for comfort, for wisdom in the ups and downs of busy life, married life, spouses, children, jobs. Mothers become the go-to in a crisis situation. And in our society, grandmothers are increasingly playing important roles as the big mother, due to various pressures and often breakdown within the family structures. We also need to be reminded that it is the mothers who are the primary homemakers and spiritual nurturers in our homes, bringing God's love into the everyday things of life, and ensuring that children come to Sunday schools and church. And we also remind that it's faithful mothers who pray and pray and pray for their children, sometimes waiting a long time to see answers to those prayers. So I've been talking about how we talk to our mothers. But really, the focus on talking and what we say is not the real point. The real point is mother, the person we are talking to, who we are talking to. Because it's not about our conversations, it's about relationship. Nothing more, nothing less. Relationship created out of love by our mother, and our responding to that love by ourselves. You see, the primary way we talk to our mothers is because of the relationship we have with the mothers. We speak out of assumed commitment often to our mothers. We assume they love us, hopefully unconditionally, and that they want the best for us and know what the best is, and that they do make sacrifices for our well-being. Yes, we assume that, and we may choose to manipulate that or try to for our advantage, but always in the context of love and security, of being known and valued. But if you were looking at the bottom of the screen up there, it says what? The prayer series. Because today is actually, my topic's not about Mother's Day and not about mothers. It's about prayer. But if I said to you that everything I've said up to now is true about prayer, would I be wrong? If you're not sure, allow me to remind you. The foundation of prayer is relationship, our relationship with God. If we don't have a real relationship with God, our verbal prayers may seem to be more like we talk to somebody else's mother or somebody we don't know, distant and formal. The better our relationship with God, the greater the level of intimacy and trust, the more real our prayers. And at times, the less need for verbal prayers, because we know the answer, because we know God, and we know in advance God's mind and will on many matters. You see, we have to be reminded over and over again, don't we, that God created us in God's image for relationship. And God seeks always to deepen that relationship. And in Jesus, God has completed all that was necessary for us to always live in right relationship with God. But still, like children, we want to manipulate God for our own needs. If you think about most of your prayers, and we spend a week praying for our country, we're trying to get God to do things for us. Hey? God doesn't mind that. But at times, I wonder if God wonders if we wanted anything more out of the relationship than just getting prayers answered. And I would probably presume, and the Old Testament in particular gives us insights into the fact that God gets a little bit frustrated because we just keep on bugging God instead of enjoying the relationship with God. So let's go back to some of those ways we spoke to our mother, examples I gave, and see how they in fact parallel how we speak to God. So I said we often say, I'm asking you nicely. And what do we say to God? Loving God, I'm asking you nicely. Or, pretty please, I love you so much, Mother. You're the best mother in the world. God, you love us so much and you died for us, so pretty please do this for me. When we say to our mother, you love me so much, and a loving mother would never deprive her children in that way. God, you want what is best for your children, and you have our heart's desires, so I will go and clean my room right now, Mother, if you do this for me. God, I'm going off to church today, and I plan to go to Bible study this week, so please. I will always remember to feed the dog every day, and I'll take it for walks in the afternoon after school. If only you were generous and give me one. I promise to read my Bible and say my prayers every day if you do this for me. Everyone has one, and now obviously I'm one of the rejected, deprived kids out there. God, you say that we can ask for anything in Jesus' name, and then you will bless us more than we can imagine. So what about it now? Dad says it's okay, but he wants me just to ask you. God, your word, the Bible, says this, and you need to be true to your word, so please do this and allow that. And maybe lastly, what about our actions, our tones of voices, loving touch, funny movements? We didn't look at those a lot, but with God we have a whole lot. We change our way of speaking sometimes. We change the words we use. We get into all sorts of poses in order to kind of make sure God's seeing how serious and genuine we are. But what about adult life, when we are kind of more independent from God, living, which God wants us to be, mature adults? But God still remains the go-to crisis person. God has to jump when our worlds hit a road bump, when the choices we made didn't work out, when our relationships crumble and so on. God becomes the emergency services until we no longer need God. But God is faithful. And Jesus, we are told, keeps on interceding for us on our behalf. I wonder at times what he has to say. God is always hinting at things that we need to remember so that we don't make as many stupid choices and do so many dumb things. And God is there to pick us up, patch us up, set us back on the road again and again and again. Because I would argue this, listen carefully. I would argue that God values God's relationship with us more than we value our relationship with God. That God values God's relationship with us more than we value our relationship with God. And all God is desiring is intimacy, oneness, and friendship with God's beloved children, you and me. So what about our readings today? Beautifully read. See, they use the young ladies, not the young boys to read. The word Father is a dominant word in those readings. Yes, we can argue, and rightly so, that God is not gender defined, so we could say our mother and all that, but most of you are uncomfortable with that. But if you want to be biblically or politically correct, make the adjustment yourself. But the point about prayer is that Jesus changed prayer radically in one primary way. He said, Abba, Father, Daddy. He brought intimacy and relationship into prayer like never, ever before. And Paul got it. He had to do quite a lot of unlearning from his Pharisaic days of structured prayer to the intimacy of understanding God as Father. And so in our reading to the Ephesians, he says, for this reason I kneel before the Father. Not before God, some distant thing, the Father. And then he says, the Father from whom every family on earth derives its name. Our identity as family is in the Father God. And the whole point is so that Christ may dwell richly in our hearts through faith. The whole family structure, the whole identity is God-given and God-blessed. And the aim is that Jesus may live in us and that we can live full and complete lives. It's the identity of a loving parent out of whose generosity we can have real life. Jesus did it in our gospel reading. When you pray, go into your room and pray to your Father who's unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, don't keep on babbling like the pagans do, for they think they're going to be heard with their many words. Don't be like them. for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. This is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven. Intimacy, privacy, deep relationship, meaningful words and communication. God knows before we ask, delights in our asking and hearing us articulate our thoughts, because it's about relationship. And it's all about our Father. Not about babbling that wears God down like some irritating mosquito. No wonder some of our babbling prayers are never answered. Do you allow God to mother you? Do you allow God to mother you? To be the person you go to when you're broken, when you're afraid, and know that at least God loves you and is there for you? Well, our Psalms are full of that sentiment and emotion. They often express the freedom to be angry in God's presence because it's a presence in which you're secure. And the psalmists who go on a rant normally end the rant in a moment of praise and acknowledgement of the faithfulness of God. So read the Psalms to get the emotion of prayer. Example from outside the Psalms, how God describes God's self as a mother. In Isaiah 66, you'll be fed and carried on her arm. God is talking about describing God. And dandled on her knees. As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted. It's that intimacy of a mother nurturing the child. In only a way a mother can. The child at the breast, just in peace and tranquility. But today is Mother's Day. And maybe for many of you, your mother is like God. Or maybe she is God in your family. But we honor her for that. When we have good parents, it does make it easier for us to understand who God is and to build relationships with God. Some of you have maybe a difficult way of understanding God because you've had difficult parents. But we thank you, mothers, for being the homemakers, for giving us life, for being there to support us in our spiritual developments as much as the physical. And we trust that you are spoilt and cherished for today and in the rest of your life. But we're talking about prayer, aren't we? Why am I back to mothers? Over the next few weeks, we're going to journey through many dimensions of prayer, subtleties of prayer, wrestling with difficult questions. But our starting point has to be relationship. Because that's the point of prayer. Relationship with God. Prayer is just the communication channel in that relationship. But you know what? If we're going to start to understand prayer, we have to start to understand our relationship. And as I hinted earlier, depending on your relationship with your mother, the nature is different of your conversation. And so depending on your understanding of who God is, your relationship in prayer is going to be different. So I ask you a big question. Who is God to you? And how does that reflect in your prayer life? Because there should be a strong connection. A wrong understanding of who God is will give us a whole set of difficulties in our prayer life because of that understanding. A couple of examples. If God is not a loving mother or father, then what are we doing and how do we pray when we communicate with this not loving father or mother? If God is like an authoritarian king, distant, rule-bound, what does our prayer life look like? If God is only a Father Christmas rewarding only the good children, what does our prayer life look like? If God is a stern judge with that big black book of all your sins, what does your prayer life look like? If God is Jesus dying on the cross, what does your prayer life look like? If God is the resurrected Christ, the King of Kings, what does your prayer life look like? If God is living in you and the Holy Spirit, your life energy, what does your prayer life look like? I could go on, but I think I've made my point. As we journey on this theme over the next few weeks, you have to start with who you think God is, how you understand God. Reflect on your understanding of God, because it's the nature of that understanding that will determine your prayer life, its ups and downs, its wrestles, its successes, its joys, its failures. And I want to end with how Richard Foster starts his book on prayer. It's about this thick. And you know what he calls it? He says, prayer. Finding the heart's true home. That's his subtitle. Richard Foster, who's he? He gave us the book Celebration of Discipline. In the 70s and 80s was the kind of go-to book on the spiritual life. This is what he says, chapter 1, verse 1. God has graciously allowed me to catch a glimpse into his heart, and I want to share with you what I have seen. Today, the heart of God is an open wound of love. He aches over our distance and preoccupation. He mourns that we do not draw near to him. He grieves that we have forgotten him. He weeps over our obsession with muchness and manyness. He longs for our presence. And he is inviting you and me to come home to where we belong, to come home to that for which we were created. His arms are stretched out wide to receive us. His heart is enlarged to take us in. For far too long, we have been in a far country, a country of noise and the hurry and crowds, a country of climb and push and shove, a country of frustration and fear and intimidation. And he welcomes us home, home to serenity and peace and joy, home to friendship and fellowship and openness, home to intimacy and acceptance and affirmation. The key to this home, this heart of God, is prayer. The key to this home, this heart of God, is prayer. That is our journey home to the heart of God as we unpack this prayer series over the next few weeks. So happy Mother's Day, and remember, men, love your mother, and all of us come home to God's heart. Amen.